Today, ladies and gentlemen, in light of Halloween coming up, we're talking graveyard stocks, which spookily have outperformed most of the markets. So let's jump right into this. $1901. This is an extremely old graveyard by my house. While I'm out getting some exercise, a bike ride, I figured, Halloween's coming up, trying to get some exercise into the end of fall here before winter hits us. And I really want to talk about these crazy yields and the rate of returns on graveyard stocks, guys. Nothing more spooky than that for Halloween. So let's head back into the office and I want to break down some of these stocks for you. So let's head on back, guys. Welcome back, passive income investors alike. Today we're talking stocks people are dying to get into. We ain't gonna do too many puns for you today, but we're talking cemetery stock investing, CSI for short. But as I looked into this industry way in the past, I think it'd be fun to talk about it on this channel because I've never talked about this yet. And as I drive or bike by a graveyard on a regular basis, let's take a look into the graveyard stocks. Why not? Might be fun. Halloween's coming up, interesting topic all around. But unfortunately, this industry has been where money comes to die. By the definition of, there's only been two companies in this entire niche that have actually outperformed the markets and have done sustainably well. The reason I have never personally put money into these stocks is because the fear of people cutting down on cemetery expenses. As we all know, they're very expensive when people pass away. So a lot of people are doing like cremations and things like that. But I think this is going to be a fun niche to analyze. So we're going to look at two companies, the only two companies that have done well. One is a Canadian and one is a US company. Now the Canadian one is called Parklawn Corporation, and the US one is called Service Corporation International. What weird names. They kind of keep them very bleak and separated from what they actually do. But let's head on over to my computer and let's analyze a couple of these companies for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a fascinating niche industry that nobody really talks about too often, and it has been an incredible place for money to come and literally die. It's pretty much everybody else in this sector has been beaten into the ground by almost the definition of there are very few companies in this niche that have done well, and literally the only two are Service Corporation International and Parklawn. This one's traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and this one is a US-based New York Stock Exchange, even though both these companies have global or international exposure. But I would say Services Corporation International is the bigger one to look at because we're talking about an $8.3 billion market cap compared to PLC, which only has a $770 million market cap. Big difference there. And it's kind of crazy because the bigger one has pretty much an even dividend yield with a dividend yield that has actually grown, which we'll talk about more in a second here. But just jumping right into this, starting with Service Corporation International, SCI, not CSI. I could have changed those letters around and say Stock Cemetery Investing. We would have ended up with the same slogan, which would have been funny. But just doing at a glance here into this company, guys, we'll scroll through their basic forward-looking presentation. I couldn't find one on Parklawn Corporation. I didn't really do a whole deep dive into that, but we're just going through these at a glance, and I'm sure we're well aware of what these companies are capable of and what they do, and we can see quite the global exposure this company has. Now, the way they make money is kind of fascinating because, like I said, when I got into this years ago, the biggest fear was the fear of people moving to cremation and more away from burials because they just cost too much money. And we'll see even with this company that it's kind of crazy to see that their growth in this company has done as well as it has done. It's kind of an impressive deal, so it'd be fun to actually go through this and see where they're making most of their money from. But honestly, a lot of it comes from services. They have a little chart in here somewhere right here where we can see they're actually doing share repurchases. So they're doing share buybacks by a huge chunk to basically keep the stock price up. So they're really taking those profits and hammering them back into the company. And it's kind of neat to see that they got their maintenance fees, their cemetery and property development, their acquisitions. So they are doing what they can to keep this company growing, which is quite incredible. We're going to have to go over their finances here real quick as well. But before we do that, let's just take a look at their dividends. Just scrolling through the dividends here real quick, guys. This company has done exceptionally well. Considering if we go back 5 years, we can see that from 26, we're going to go 2014, so we get an even 5 years here. We've gone from 9 cents all the way up to 18 cents, meaning they have completely doubled their dividend over the time period, making this probably an easy
outperformer of the S&P 500, considering if we go back to that same time period, 5 years ago exactly, not only would we have doubled our dividends, so say it started at 1.5%, we'd be at 3% yield 5 years later, and we would have had a rate of return of over 100%. So actually taking a look at their books inside of my trading platform here, the only thing I really want to look at is the overall fundamentals. The thing that I like looking at the most, as I always say, is total assets versus total liabilities to see if this company's underwater. And it looks like they are extremely excessively stretched, considering total liabilities set at what, $11 billion. And we're talking about a total asset of about 12.6 billion. So if we minus that out, we only end up with about $1.5 billion in capital, which is huge, mind you. It's not a small chunk of change, but the leverage here is quite excessive, which is something to look deeper into. Cash flow overall, though, it looks like we've seen quite a healthy increase in cash flows, though from 2017 to 2018, sorry, we saw some staggering lingering there. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but overall, the company has done quite well on the balance sheet to keep things growing, making it a fascinating company to look into. Not a lot of volume on the trading, though. But if we move into Parklawn Corporation, now this company, another one of the companies that's done really, really well in the Canadian sector. Again, let's take a look at the 5-year chart. Has this company done better than SCI? I'm kind of curious. People might be dying better to get into this one. This company has a better rate of return over 5 years. But the thing is I already looked into the dividend. And if we go into their dividend in history, which we'll get into in a second, they haven't really increased it much over the last 5 years, but we've seen a better rate of return out of their stock. So let's just kind of scroll through this one real quick as well. Much cleaner, confusing website. Why is there a map in the back? It's kind of weird scrolling through and seeing that. But let's just take a look, guys, at their business. And they kind of got a smaller but similar geography when it comes to their funeral homes, I guess. And they seem pretty diverse, considering they got a bunch in Canada. It looks like they have more in the US than Canada, making this a pretty 50-50 shot for diversifying that death income. Very weird thing to talk about. Let's take a quick peek at their history or something. I'm not sure. They just don't have a whole lot on the website, but can we click or swipe navigate through our where is it? It doesn't look like it's loading. Oh, a little bit of laggardness. Oh, wow. So they did one of these time charts to show their actual history. So we can go all the way back. Funeral home business, term PLC enters. So it looks like they've been doing some acquisitions. So they've been doing something similar to basically continue to grow the business. It looks like the cemetery business can only grow by one basis fact, which is just acquiring other cemeteries. I don't think they actually have a very sustainable growth rate. Now, obviously, death is personal to your religion, how you want to be buried. And I think these companies have a sustainable outlook depending on the company. But the way they can grow, the only way they seem to be able to grow would be basically through acquisitions. And it seems to be how they are growing these companies. Because like I said, as dividends increase, here's a company, this company pays monthly. They actually pay a monthly dividend. Oh my goodness. So here's a people dying to get in kind of business that actually pays a monthly yield, which is pretty incredible. But this company, you can see, hasn't really increased the dividend year over year. It's been fairly flat. But with the rate of return they've had, it's not terrible. So let's just go take a look at this company within the actual trading platform here as well, because I think this would be an interesting one to look at just on their fundamentals. So let's just take a quick peek here. Again, we got positive cash flow at least, but this one trades at a much higher PE, if I'm not mistaken, at a PE of 82.9 compared to 19.8 with SCI International PLC. Man, you're trading at a high multiple. I wonder why that is and why people are putting such a high multiple on this guy. I'm really curious about that. But let's take a look at the balance sheet. And we don't actually get to see much on the balance sheet. This one is, why does it not show? That's kind of interesting. But we got total assets clearly that it's going to show me of 1.02 billion, and total liabilities. This is in the millions, right? Yeah. So they got about $1 billion in total assets, but we got a total liabilities of about 619 million. Is that right? If we minus from the total liabilities, if we minus 619 from $1 billion, I mean, we're still left with $300 million, which if we take a look at their overall market cap, you're not paying too much premium above what they're worth. But why are they trading at such a high multiple? I'm kind of curious, but it doesn't look like we're going to get to see too many fundamentals on this guy, which is weird because this is the Canadian one. And as we look at their earnings per share, I noticed the other one, if we go back to SCI there, we'll take a look at that one again as well, just to see why these things are trading at pretty high multiples. It looks like they're expected to beat earnings coming into the next couple quarters here. Like they're supposed to have higher revenue growth, which I'm curious to see Is that one of the reasons that they put such a high multiple on this? So let's take a look at this one as well and just take a look at their earnings and revenues. Yeah, so same deal. Both these companies are trading at really high multiples right now, burst their earnings, and I haven't done enough homework to figure out why that is. These companies have a very nice symmetry toward each other, but they trade at such different multiples. So, I mean, you have to do your homework on that one. But overall, guys, these are just some fascinating companies. Like, look at the charting on this guy. My goodness gracious. It's crazy to think that back in the day that this company has had a very similar charting, but holy crap, what a weird industry to be involved in. Do you guys own any of this?
You found this video interesting, just slap a like, it lets me know to make more, and consider commenting. Do you own cemetery stocks? Do these interest you? What are your thoughts? I'd love to actually hear about it down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so stay cool, stay awesome. I look forward to chatting to you real soon.